minister's removal of Inas Abdel-Daim, the former head of the Opera House. The Opera House announced that Abdulaziz had appointed Badr al-Zaqaziki as its new head. The artist started protesting following the removal of both Abdel-Daim and Salah al-Miliki, head of the Applied Arts Department at the ministry. And today we have Mr. Hossam Nassar, Engineer Hossam Nassar, the poet and the former Undersecretary of the Ministry of Culture, to tell us more about the problem there. Hello, Mr. Nassar.
Hello, how are you?
So, welcome to the show, sir. And at the beginning, I'd like to ask you about, there has been a lot of controversy and a lot of debates around the actions or decisions by the minister, the newly appointed Minister of Culture. How would you assess the situation in your point of view?
Assessing the actions of the person has to do with assessing the actions of the faction that he seems to be belonging to, and it has to do with the greater plot of the US and the West as well. The US and the West are targeting having a different map, a different political map for the region. That is sectarian or racial, in order to serve the nation of Israel, being in the middle of having Judaism as a race and Judaism as a religion. So in order for the region to cope with the dreams of Israel, they have to be segmented like this. And fortunately enough for the faction or the Jama'ah, their plot, is totally coinciding with the American plot, because they never perceive Egypt as a nation. Hence, they want to destroy the identity of Egypt as a civil kind of nation, a nation for all Egyptians, being a Copt, being a Bedouin, being an Amazigh, being a Sunni, being a Shia. They want to start segregating things together. So he's going back to Ala Abdulaziz, and I cannot even call him a minister, because that would be a disgrace for the post. He's not serving his own agenda, he's serving the faction agenda, which coincides with the US and the West plotting against Egypt and against the region.
But is he doing it intentionally?
Of course.
Intentionally?
Intentionally. He's coming with an agenda, right? It's not his own drive. And we will be totally wrong perceiving him as someone who's doing things out of his own box.
Mistakes.
Right? He's doing things intentionally. First of all, the selection of him, right, raises a lot of question mark. Who is he? He has never been a pro-regime or con the regime, right? He's an unknown identity with no position whatsoever. He's not cultivated, he's not a man of letters, he's not a creator, and he's not a manager, because he was just a doctor in the academy teaching some people. He's never been taught how to manage or practiced management anywhere along his career. So putting him in the spotlight would be actually giving him much more credit than he deserves. He's serving an agenda, and he has been chosen exactly to do that. They have chosen nobody, just to humiliate the men of letters, humiliate the cultivated people, which unfortunately 95% of the cultured people have went and voted for Morsi, or at least broke some lemon when they were doing that. So they are humiliating the culture of Egypt intentionally, and it has nothing to do with the leaderships, right, that are already there. Any leadership would have been removed, because they are seeking having nobodies on the top of the posts that is functioning as the Minister of Culture entities. and they are being helped and supported by the roaches that are there in the ministry, and they are the fifth column that have been eroding in the Ministry of Culture and in everywhere in the government, and they are the most corrupt, the most lazy, the most willing to transform from any ideology to another ideology, serving their own benefits. So he's being backed by these small roaches in the ministry, as if he's trying to get them their rights for doing nothing in the ministry. So we're seeing a symptom targeting the identity of Egypt. Egypt is all about three major powers: the hard power, which is the military institution; the soft power, which is the culture; and the diversity that we have in the economy. Economy is the easiest part. We're having a bunch of business people who have been serving the Mubarak regime. We will get them from this pot and put them into the brethren pot. Easy. The two most difficult to tackle are the hard power and the soft power. And the hardest is the hard power, of course. We cannot even touch them, at least for the time being. So the next attack...
But as we can see, the soft power is not easy to be changed as well.
Of course,
Yes.
but the
It's easier,
imagine, because
relatively
they are
easier.
self-indulged people, they do not understand the culture of Egypt, right?
They are the core of the
aliens.
revolution
They
itself.
are aliens, right? So they are under the impression that the soft power of Egypt can be easily targeted and attacked and addressed. And this is the downfall. We're seeing the downfall of the brethren, not only in the culture, in everywhere. And if you have been witnessing this, what they have called the national dialogue of yesterday, it's been, I mean, the farce of the farce.
Yes, but playing the other side's role, or the defense side of the story from the Ministry of Culture, he's saying that the level of corruption has reached around 60% within the Ministry of Culture, and that he aims to fight corruption and aims to have the social justice prevail within the Ministry of Culture, and people of interest against these main priorities are the ones who are debating his presence.
Well, corruption is everywhere, not only in the Ministry of Culture. So for me to say that there is no corruption, of course, the corruption is everywhere. But the corruption is at the roaches level, not at the top level. And they have every right to be corrupt because they are taking peanuts, right? I mean, you give them peanuts, you get the little monkeys. So corruption is there. But how in hell did he calculate the 60%? I'm coming from a management background. I'm not only taught management, I'm teaching management. How in hell did he come up with that solid 60% corruption? He has only been a week in the ministry. And I mean, calculating the level of corruption, right, in any entity would take 18 months to discover, right? Because you will never discover it until you go into a very lengthy restructuring exercise, right? To know what is the level of corruption that is there. And talking about corrupted leadership or corrupted management, according to what? Until Ahmed Abu Ghazi, when he was a minister, we have been hammered by 5,000 complaints. But none of the 5,000, not one, right, was actually persecuted or even looked at, because they were, I mean, all kind of vengeance persecution. So talking about these things cannot go for the Egyptian mentality. He's coming with the same cliche, right? The same, the whole Mubarak system was corrupt. I mean, we have been living the Mubarak era for 30 years, and we have not been corrupted, even if he was corrupt, and he was not, himself was not corrupt, but he allowed the corruption in a kind of a political vision that he would amalgamate and capitalize the wealth of Egypt into 50 families. And the most corrupt, right, of Egypt were not the employees, were not the managers, right? They were the business people, and they were not really corrupt. They were using loopholes in the legal system to get more wealthy. So portraying that Egypt is totally corrupt and everything in the government is corrupt, that was one of the cliches that was used by the brethren in order to come up with their alternative states.
Yes,
That completely alienates and wants to destroy the current state. And best of luck, they will never be able to do that.
Yes, Mr. Hossam, but you've mentioned also Mr. Ahmed Abu Ghazi, the former Minister of Culture. How would you see the performance of the Ministry of Culture itself after the revolution, so for the 2 or 2.5 years now?
Nobody, if you get the best, if you get Tagore, if you get Gandhi, right, after the revolution, in the Ministry of Culture or in any ministry, he would have not been performed. But now we're having the so-called elected president, right? But he, for a year now, he's not been able to function. So the transitional periods was totally out of reach for anyone to do a proper job. But now we're approaching a year with this famously elected person, the first elected person as he would like to perceive himself, and nothing is achieved. And all what we're getting is a lip service, corruption, purging. I mean, give me a break.
So you have you served as a former Undersecretary of the Ministry of Culture.
Yes.
If we going back to the question that Ahmed Nader has just asked, trying to assess the situation before and after, and living with the concept of having corruption everywhere, how are you assessing the level of corruption previously and now?
I cannot tag it as a percentage, but the corruption is there. But it's not more on top of my head. It's not more than 10%, and it's all at the lowest level of the management structure in the government. And these are the underpaid people. You have left them with no choice but to be corrupt. If they don't have the moral.
Okay, let me put it the other way. One of the things that the minister has said, that there is a lot of social injustice. People are paid really high and others are paid very low, and there are no sort of